Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and I'm now joined by JJ Bull the Bullet.
Hello.
Hello there, how are you?
Good, forgot you keep calling me that.
Well, that's your name. And of course, also joining us is Sebastian Stafford-Bloor. Hello, Seb.
Hello, Joe.
Lovely job. So much football to discuss this weekend. But first, let me say, if you are watching this on YouTube, you'll notice that these two strapping young men are wearing some delightful shirts. JJ there sporting the metronome. And for listeners, that is a lovely illustration of Andrea Pirlo with a kind of automaton's body with a metronome in. And Seb is wearing the small badge version of the Terminator shirt, which is Erling Haaland as a Terminator. Now, these are part of the...
Well, Terminator.
Well, to be honest, if we really want to dig down into the lore of the Terminator films, then anyone listening will know that there are many Terminators. Arnie was simply one that was sent back. And of course, later, there was the one that could morph, Terminator 2, can't remember his name. He was scarier with his sword arm.
Graham
the Terminator, yeah. And of course, in future episodes, there were different Terminators. So do check up on your sci-fi lore.
Terminator. He is, in this instance, the Terminator.
Fine.
It's contextual.
Yes.
Are there any friendly Terminators? Are there any friendly?
Arnie.
Like with
Arnie's the friendly Terminator.
Yeah. I've not really seen Terminator, really.
Gives money to charity.
You've never seen the film Terminator?
No, I have, but I've always been...
Fine. You know what? I think we should engender here a spirit at Tifo where we don't make fun of people for not having seen films that they definitely should have seen.
I have seen it. I don't remember it. I've seen it lots of times, but always under the influence of something. So then
it's the worst thing when you're talking to people and then they say, "What? You haven't heard that band, or you haven't seen that film," and then you feel small.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine. It is a good film, though. You should watch it when you're awake.
I've seen most of Terminator 2, but I don't remember what happens.
Fine, yeah. Anyway, these shirts are from the Literal Nicknames series of Tifo merchandise. And you can visit shop.tifofootball.com to check them out in greater detail and probably purchase one for yourself, for your friends or family, or even send one to someone you don't know for fun. Just put a random address in there and say, random act of kindness, money for me, please, money for me.
A friendly Terminator would do that, I think.
Arnie.
Yeah,
Arnie would do that.
A friendly Terminator, just a random act of
kindness.
kindness.
Arnie is a friendly Terminator. I'm not going to do this again. Right, other things. There's so much to discuss today outside of Terminator. We've got Liverpool and Man City, very exciting. Chelsea with a very bizarre home result to Brentford. Who thought their month could have got stranger? Also, West Ham Everton, big news for Everton. We'll be talking about that. Man United and Leicester City. This is, probably not that much of a surprise, to be honest, but we'll come around there. Tottenham hammering Newcastle, maybe a bit lower down the bill than it should be, but Seb said it was boring. And of course, there was the Derby d'Italia that we'll talk about as well. And I believe Seb's going to chime in with a little bit from Barcelona-Sevilla, a very important game for the La Liga season. So there's lots to cover today. And if you like coverage, that's the most straight one ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you like coverage, you should visit theathletic.com/Tifo, theathletic.com/Tifo, where you'll find some of the best coverage of football in the world. That's right. And at the moment, you can get a 30-day free trial to check it out for free for 30 days.
The coverage of the World Cup draw was very, very excellent before the weekend.
Yes, it was.
It really was.
I liked it. Stick around to the end and we'll talk about the World Cup draw. How exciting. We ready? Fine. Well, I will leave you in the warm hands and the cool embrace of all of the football that's happened. Yes, Liverpool 2-0 Watford, Burnley 0-2 Manchester City. Would you believe it, JJ? I know you would, because you've been banging this drum for a while now. There's only 1 point in it. I think at some point, a few months ago, Man City were 14 points ahead or something like that. Don't quote me on that, something like that. And now, of course, Liverpool head to the Etihad on the coming Sunday for the big face-off, all capital letters. It's a huge, huge important game for the title. A title race that I wasn't certain was going to be happening 8 weeks ago.
Well, this is what happens when you draw a couple of games and the other team wins. It closes that gap that you had. It wasn't. Yeah. I think it was because 14 doesn't really matter what the gap was.
It was
9
large enough.
Yeah. It was large enough that you.
But they've lost one game, right? And now it's back.
Well, these are two of the best Premier League teams I have ever seen.
Sure.
They just are, right? I mean, they're both. Man City got the record points total of 100 or something, and then Liverpool were 1 point off it when they didn't win the league behind them.
Yeah.
So
actually, I think the Premier League record for points is Chelsea with 103.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Well, then they were also one of the best ever. Doesn't matter.
They were pretty good.
Basically, both teams are amazing, and there's a jump between the top two and the rest of the league at the moment. No one can really close it down. I thought Chelsea would do better this season after the Champions League win. Seemed to be going places, but the players they signed, like Lukaku, hasn't really worked. That would have been the thing that pushed them into that top three.
Yeah.
But that's what they're missed out on. And I mean, it just takes one of them to slip up, and it's always against a silly team like Man City playing against Crystal Palace or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where they always make an error, and then Liverpool don't, and they just build this momentum coming through.
It's a bit different to previous years, isn't it? Like you say, it feels like all they have to do is drop 2 points,
You're
and
so
then suddenly,
angry with your arms crossed.
well, I'm making a very serious point with my arms crossed. I think it felt like in previous years there was more. Maybe this is wrong, but there was more of an opportunity, Seb, for a slip up. Whereas now it feels like if you make any mistake at all, they're breathing down your neck.
Yeah, I think so. It feels like that now. I mean, this is still a season when, amazingly, Man City lost home and away to Tottenham. That feels very weird, given how good they've been.
Yeah.
But I think that's a trend over the last couple of years, because if you look at fan reactions now, it used to be the case where you'd lose, have a bit of a meltdown. Now, if a team draws away from home, that's a little bit of a crisis.
Sure.
Which is kind of indicative of how much jeopardy there now is, fixture to fixture in the Premier League. You love a bit of jeopardy.
Yeah.
Do you know, just like throwing in a narrative, it doesn't need to be there, but it reminds me of these like great individual sportsmen or teams where they need like a direct rival to be able to be better, like the Ronaldo Messi thing, right? Or Senna and Prost, whatever, like that sort of stuff where you have someone who drives you on. So Man City and Liverpool both make each other better. I think that's kind of what we're seeing. So
I was watching the Liverpool game, and I don't really remember anything about the goals or any of the kind of context in which the game occurred, but there was a pass in this game from Thiago which was just ridiculous, kind of involuntary noise watching on home on TV. He received the ball in the first half, received the ball I think around halfway, and just slid probably 35 yard ball in towards the penalty box like a knife. Ridiculous bit of technique. Go and find that if it's not on the highlight reel. It didn't lead to anything, so it might not be. But it's one of the best passes I've seen all season. Just such good technique.
Just he looks the opposite way when he's doing it.
Exactly.
As well.
It's like a no look reverse. Takes 7 different opposition players out of the play with one touch pass. It's outrageous.
A hot butter Watford pass.
Sure is.
Very exciting.
Catchy name.
Hot butter Watford. Yeah.
Good name for a band.
Melting. Yeah, fine. Well, anyway, it's a huge game coming up on Sunday. I think we'll probably do some coverage of it on Monday.
You know what's interesting about those kind of games? Like every now and again, the Premier League throws up a sort of a bit of a face-off. And I remember 10, 15 years
every
ago.
weekend, 10 times.
No, but like, what used to be termed like a Grand Slam Sunday.
Yeah.
And if you go back 15 years, you would be fairly safe in assuming those games are going to be absolutely unwatchable. Awful, like 1-0. Remember the old sort of the Chelsea Liverpool games, the Mourinho Benitez games, which were just awful for everybody.
Is the word.
Exactly that. Stale, chess match, no opportunities.
Man United
chances.
Arsenal in the last 4 years has been a version of that.
Yeah, whereas Man United, it's almost like an inversion, because Man United Arsenal always used to be punchy and spiteful and nasty, going all the way back to the early 90s actually.
If there wasn't blood, there was 10 goals.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So, interesting. I'm actually looking forward to a big game because I think it'll be good.
Yeah, sure. Good, exciting. Fine. We'll be covering that.
Yes.
Chelsea won for Brentford. Yes. This is a weird one. I didn't watch this game, Seb. Bit of an anomaly, would you say? Or I mean, what's happened? What's happening with Chelsea?
I don't know what's happening with Chelsea, but I don't think I've ever seen N'Golo Kante chase the play as much as he did in this game.
Really?
So Chelsea played in a back four to start with, and it was very chaotic between
they played in the back four?
Yeah, with Thiago and
Have
Rudiger.
they been doing that at all recently, or is this a kind of...
Done it a couple of times over the few months, yeah.
I would expect to see a back three against Real Madrid this week, but it was odd because going into this game, most people thought, right, well, Brentford are going to probably exist mainly on the counter-attack. And they did, and Mbeumo was very, very good, and Eriksen was excellent, all those kind of things. But the balance in Chelsea's midfield was wrong, I think. So Mount, Loftus-Cheek, Kante didn't really work. There was something askew there, and Brentford were absolutely ruthless. And it's one of my favourite bits of football all season was the Brentford third goal. Right. It has a little third man run by Janelt and a perfect Ivan Toney pass through the kind of a slide rule pass, puts Janelt through on goal, and he sort of chips it over Edouard Mendy. I always think that whether I'm right or not, I always think whenever you see a well-executed third-man run, you think that's a well-coached team. Because it makes me think of Guardiola's Barcelona back in the day. But it's just a really, really good performance, and also features Christian Eriksen's first goal for Brentford.
There we go.
I think Mendy should have
Bridge.
saved that
Yeah,
goal.
it's a weird one, wasn't
He's
it?
been off recently, by the way.
Hasn't been the same since he got back from AFCON.
Yeah,
really.
it's
I don't know
weird.
why.
He's suddenly something. I think it was even just before AFCON. I think
Maybe.
he just something changed where maybe something didn't go the way he thought it would. It's like his confidence has been dented or something.
That
It's
West
purely
Ham goal.
subjective. Like, I can't tell this for sure.
It was that cross shot West Ham goal by Masuaka, I think, at the City of London, and he just kind of misjudged it and it went in at his near post.
I think so much goalkeeping must be
It's
just
weird,
pure
yeah.
confidence and acting on instinct.
Or like
And the
bad
moment you double guess, you sort of second guess what you're thinking, it makes you not as. You just have to have blind faith in everything you're doing. And maybe he's just the kind of guy who overthinks things, and that's why he's doubting little bits and pieces.
It's strange. It's also slightly ironic because his performance at Brentford for Chelsea was one of the best goalkeeping performances of the season. Do you remember when they just chucked everything at them? Long balls, direct, it's straight into the box, everything, kind of just shelling the penalty box for a good hour, and he stood up to everything. It was physical and reliable and just excellent goalkeeping. And there is something a little bit wrong. He should probably save the third goal too. He might be a little bit quicker off his line for the Eriksen goal. Really well taken goal. Nice sort of left-footed chip, kind of finish high into the roof of the net.
Kind of hard to save that one, though, isn't it? Eriksen on his own.
No, but it's hard to save that. But he should, like, the opportunity for Eriksen, because you know where the ball's going in that minute. Like, you know when it's coming across the penalty box. You can probably anticipate, and it's just split seconds, isn't it? It's what you're saying. It's kind of you lose a little bit of self-belief, and that's how it shows.
Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
Quick word on Ivan Toney, because based on the form of some England strikers this season, is there at all an outside shout here for a national team call-up?
I think it should happen, but I don't think it will, because Tony's different. Like, I don't necessarily think he's an international caliber goal scorer. Sure. But as a centre forward, he'll be very difficult to play against because he's physical and a direct threat, but he's also got this wonderful kind of velvet touch. He'll drop off the forward line a little bit in a way which is not hugely dissimilar to someone like Harry Kane. Sometimes they're not the same player, I understand, but if you look at the other options England have, if something were to go wrong at the World Cup, so Calvert-Lewin, not really back to where he was under Ancelotti.
No.
Rashford, no. Who is your other centre forward? Vardy retired.
Sure.
Danny Ings, maybe, but hasn't had the greatest season for Villa.
No.
Ollie Watkins, good player.
Ollie Watkins started the other day, of course, in the friendly.
He did, and he scored at the weekend, I think, but then you think, don't know, because if Harry Kane was to get injured and England were to start Ollie Watkins,
It's a big noise.
There's a big noise offset, which was very frightening.
Sure.
Quite frightening, not very frightening.
Yeah.
Anyway,
perhaps that's how the England strikers feel with the performances of Ivan Toney.
I think he's a kind of slightly
Big
different
noise
beat
offset,
of
yeah.
football player. And I don't know, if you were to face Ivan Toney as someone that hasn't come up against him before, I think you'd struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why not? But I don't think it'll happen.
Sure. Okay. Well, one can dream.
Yeah.
Rudiger taking a shot from about 35 yards is amazing, by the way.
Did he score that?
Yes, it
Right.
flew into
Was
the top
that the
corner.
one Chelsea goal?
Yeah.
It was scored from 35 yards.
Yeah, he absolutely launches it. The technique as well. He doesn't hook it, but he puts his foot right through it and it carries into the top left corner. It's really like just great technique on the shot.
Yeah.
I think it was a match of the day stat they put up, which is Chelsea's longest range goal since 2007.
Wow.
They just don't shoot. Like I did this article for Telegraph and Easter there, and it was about how teams shoot from distance far less than they ever did. It's the same sort of thing you get. Like in basketball, teams tend to shoot in the same sort of area now, and I think it's changed so they always look for 3-pointers now.
Yeah.
So like everything's
That's the
3-pointers. Yeah, that's the meta. And the same in football is when you analyse it, you see the most valuable parts, like XG, is to get the ball into that 6-yard area or the width of the goal, basically, width of the 6-yard box in the middle of the pitch. So that's why everyone tries to work it there. There's a bit of Graham Potter was quoted this week saying all the fans at Brighton are urging the players to shoot. And it's confusing the players whose orders are to not shoot.
Yeah.
But you want to see a ball get pinged in 30 yards off a centre back. You want to see that.
I would also say, as a supporter in a football stadium, I would rather see a shot sort of saved or hit the crossbar or just missed the post, from 25 yards than I would see
100%.
the play develop for another
100%.
90 seconds and nothing happen. I get that. I understand why teams will do that. As you said, it's about the probability of scoring from certain
In
areas.
control of
but
the match, yeah. So you do that, you sort of...
I enjoy a bit. I mean, when I went
You'd like
to...
Scottish football in that case. You should watch
Sure,
that.
maybe I should check it out. I went to Wembley the other day to watch the England-Ivory Coast game.
Did you get hit by a paper aeroplane?
No, but I was obsessed with a number of paper aeroplanes.
You really, really upset you that.
I really think it's...
Yeah, you
I
didn't
don't
like
know.
that.
I'm not,
Did
your
you
ordinary...
feel, because you're a bigger person, did you feel...
Exposed?
Yeah.
My head?
Yeah.
No, I was sort of in a good area where there weren't many falling aeroplanes. But there were, if people don't know what we're talking about, there were
most areas without falling
literally
aeroplanes are good areas.
hundreds and hundreds of paper aeroplanes at this game. And I remember this video that went viral about 5 years ago. I don't know if it was a thing before or not, but it's almost a minute long, and it's a plane that from the very top corner of a stadium sort of takes ages and glides down and then finally hits a player in the head and everyone cheers. Like the whole corner of the stadium is captivated by this plane instead of by the football. And I don't know if that was something that inspired this to start or if it was already a big thing, but I've never seen so many paper aeroplanes in my life. Honestly, people must have been bringing in reams of paper to do this because how could you... It's all children as well. One other quick thing on this game, right? I never watched England play live before, right? In a friendly, particularly. Obviously, Harry Maguire got booed, right?
Yeah.
I heard the boo.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a bad person, but when I looked around, the people I saw booing weren't real people.
What were they?
They were children,
Don't count.
or
Yeah.
they were just not real people for whatever reason. They were just like people who I thought if they booed me, I'd think, well, yeah, you just look like a booer. You look like someone who's going to boo. And then to see it sort of like taken seriously, I think how many people
for a good 3 days?
Yeah, but seriously, how many people have to do something? It's the same as like news reports, like
It's the same
writing
with-
news
well, social media
off the back of
affecting-
social media.
Exactly.
But
So
like,
this is
these
what I think,
people,
yeah.
they're not. I mean, obviously, they're real people. I understand children are real people, right? But they were children. The people throwing the paper aeroplanes and the people booing were teenagers in big gangs who, I don't know, were having fun. Great, that's fine. But are we honestly really going to listen if a big gang of teenagers sort of started to say, oh, don't drink water anymore. Are we not going to drink water? Because why would we take it seriously?
Well, it'll get picked up by certain red top papers who would run it as a story.
Yeah, but then it becomes a thing.
Exactly.
Like, the players respond to it. That Harry Maguire was booed is suddenly a big thing. Children are making noises with their mouths.
That's how it works. This is how the news cycle for
I
everything
don't know.
works.
It is
It's
kind
crazy.
of amazing, though, that within hours of that game finishing, most of the England team that started that game were putting out their own posts on social addressing the booing by the non-people.
Right, by the non-people.
Yeah, I
the
know.
children.
Yeah.
We don't let them vote. Why would we let them boo? They don't know. They haven't worked it out yet. They haven't got old enough.
See, I spoke to you
really
the morning
annoyed
after
me.
this happened, and you were semi-annoyed about it. If anything, over the last week, you've got more irritated by it.
well,
You're
it's
more
an
angry than
aging
you
process, isn't it? I'm,
5
days older than I was when we had this conversation.
I think I remember exactly when I worked out that this is how you shouldn't pay any attention to any of these sorts of people on Twitter or
man.
anything.
Yeah.
Was when I was at the camp now, I was on holiday and I was doing a tour for like the third time. Don't know why I keep going there. It's so cool when you go up to the pitch.
You've been on the tour 3 times.
Yeah.
That is weird.
I really
Twice
like
maybe
it.
if you've taken someone who you think would like it, but 3 times.
I really like it.
Did you go by yourself?
No. And then anyway, so then I doesn't
With
matter.
his
Doesn't
imaginary
matter.
friend,
Doesn't
Johan
matter.
Cruyff.
So then I went to there, and in the museum bit of it, there's this like interactive thing we can do like a quiz.
Right.
And one of the questions that came
Did you
up,
play
in
it every time?
No, it's the one time. Anyway, I'll get us through this. Right, there's this quiz that comes up, and one of the questions was, what was Jose Mourinho's job when Bobby Robson was manager? And the answer was translator. That's what he was.
Yeah.
But the answer they had down was assistant manager. That's the only answer that was viable. And I was looking, because that's going to be wrong. I don't know why I had to get this right on an interactive game designed for children.
Well.
And then some dick of a teenager was like over my shoulder going like, he's pushed the button and went, assistant manager, like that. And I was like, I hate you.
Yeah.
How long
I hate
I
you.
know they
I think about
they
it
have to grow
sometimes.
up, right? It's not fair to hate them, but I do.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
Hey,
do
so
hate them.
at Molineux, they've got a really good museum. If you ever have time to go to it, but within it, alongside all the kind of the trinkets and the sort of memorabilia,
What qualifies for having time
I'm
to go
about
to
to
the
tell you.
Molineux
Well, no,
Stadium?
I was there for a
What does
game.
that mean? If I live in London, I've got like a day. How much time do I need?
I was there to cover a match there.
Sure.
And I was just there to cover a match.
You were
not
there to cover a match
again.
there, yeah.
And I had a couple of hours before kickoff, and I thought I will go and look at the museum.
Yeah.
In the museum, they've got a penalty simulator,
Right.
which allows you to take penalties against old Wolves goalkeepers of the past.
Who are actually there.
So they just knock about.
Yeah, that's their job. Salaried
£4 an hour.
21k a year.
Go and use the penalty simulator. It's great fun. I was there by myself.
Did you
It was
score?
like a Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh.
I scored against Wayne Hennessy and Mike Stowell.
Can't be that good a simulator then, can it? No. I've seen you kick a ball. Well, anyway, children aren't real. But let's. What were we talking about before?
No, we've been quite self-indulgent again.
About
I mean,
West Ham and Everton.
Let's have a break before we do that. Yes, West Ham 2-1 Everton. Everton are in trouble. Everton play Burnley at Turf Moor on Wednesday, which is now a huge game because Everton could legitimately be relegated at this point. I think we talked about their run-in a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it wasn't. It's a very, very bad. In fact, JJ, do you want to just, while we're chatting, get the run-in up, their fixtures for the rest of the Premier League season? It's very tough, which is probably one of the main reasons why they're relegation candidates.
And there was only one game on it where I felt even semi-confident that they might win.
Well, I think that might be Burnley.
No, it wasn't Burnley.
There was one more after Burnley.
Well, the game's coming up. They've got Burnley, like you just said, on Wednesday night, and they're away. Then they've got Man United at home, which would be pretty easy. And Crystal Palace is postponed for some reason. Don't know why that is. Leicester, Liverpool, well, good luck there.
Palace is still in the FA Cup.
Palace is playing the FA Cup semi-final.
Oh, right, okay. Well, Liverpool, Everton, I mean, maybe this kind of game they raise, but it's at Anfield, so they won't win that. Then they've got Chelsea at home, they won't win that. Leicester. Brentford, maybe Arsenal, final day of the season. It could be a big game, Arsenal, Everton.
That's real.
Because Arsenal will be pushing for Champions League.
Can you imagine having to go to Everton, having to go to Arsenal away to survive?
Yeah, on the last day of the season.
That's horrible.
This could be the case. So anyway, it's tough times for Everton. We did release a video the other day based on an Athletic article about, what would be the cost of an Everton relegation. Quite serious.
The answer was a lot.
Yeah. As a result of their current financial situation, right?
Yeah, so one of the things there is all the obvious bits about players being devalued, depreciating. So being unable to shift players, high wage earners. Can
I just say one of the interesting things about it along these lines that I learned was that, unlike clubs that expect relegation from the Premier League, who probably insert relegation release clauses in their players' contracts, Everton will not very likely have that in many cases, and therefore the players, also at least wage reduction clauses, I should say. So you have a striker who costs you 10 grand a week in the Premier League, you put a clause in to reduce that to £3,000 a week if you get relegated. They will not have that with their players, and the cost of wages for that team is very, very high. They're going to struggle in a championship.
They may also have relegation release clauses in place, so players like Richarlison might be suddenly worth 35 million rather than the 70 he's worth or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I think also their kit sponsor agreement with Kazoo is coming to an end this season. And there's a bit in that video about, I think the value of kit sponsorship drops by about 80%.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Also, it sounds like sponsors are probably going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, a few other issues there as well.
Like no sponsor in their right mind is currently going to enter into a deal based on them being in the Premier League when they may well not be.
No, because you're not going to pay Premier League prices for Football League visibility. So very, very sketchy time for Everton.
They have a weak team just now as well. So injury list is pretty nuts. Tom Davies, Yerry Mina, Andros Townsend, he's properly out. He's got an ACL injury. Fabian Delph just says unknown. His injury is early April. He's out till Donny van de Beek doing really well there. He's injured now. Yeah. And then Nathan Patterson's at Rangers by the sound. Also, he doesn't really play though. So they got those. But you look at the first 11 they put out and it just sounds weak. So that like John Joe Kenny's playing at right back. He wasn't very good news it.
Iwobi in central midfield was very strange.
And it's his touch, it lets it go.
That's one of the worst goals I've seen conceded all season. That second West Ham goal. It's Jared Bono ends up scoring it, but it's the touch from Iwobi.
It's a lack of awareness of the situation.
The one when Antonio's just onside.
Yeah, because it's one bad touch from Iwobi. Nobody in Everton's shirt reacts to it, and all that has to happen is a straight pass up the pitch, and Antonio's thrown goal. Should probably score with his first chance, but then Bowen's there.
But that's just Keane steps out, so the fullbacks are wide, so there's a massive gap in the middle because Godfrey's, I think he's the only one left on his own, and Michael Keane strides into midfield, and that's
when he takes the ball.
He carries it and leaves the gap
midfield, and you think, okay, that's nice, progressive centre forward play, centre back play. Okay, but then a good team builds in a little bit of a protection. Somebody else sees where he's going, drops into the space. For Everton, there's just chasm.
I think the rest of the Everton team would be higher up the pitch. So normally when you carry it like that, it's because you need to just then get someone into the midfield to to try and have a bit of ownership there, but the players are all quite bunched together, which is the weird thing. So then when he goes and leaves that gap, West Ham are just ready to break into the hole that he leaves. The team, the front, like Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are great players, but there's so much medium, and I think of the amount of money they've spent over the last while, and to put out the team that they put out, and Mason Holgate's playing defensive midfield because Allen was suspended. So
they've spent a lot of money.
There's a lot of change managers. I mean, Benitez basically set this team up to be relegation avoiders.
Sure.
When maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but they must have spent all their money already. So
I find Everton's game management, situation management is weird because that happens just after they've equalised. They're back in the game, and you probably take a draw at West Ham. That's a good result for Frank Lampard. And yet you open yourselves up to a situation where you're facing Antonio, Jared Bowen, right? So these are good counter-attacking players, they're good direct, pacey players who like to play on the break. And this happened before. I remember watching them at Spurs, and in the first half, they played a ludicrously high line against Son Heung-min and Harry Kane.
Here's a question based on that then, right? Yeah. Frank Lampard, extremely successful player, played for an extraordinarily successful team, right? A team that would always push for the goal if needed because of the context. Is there a precedent, would you say, for managers, coaches who come from teams like that, who try to instill the same value at teams where the context is not the same? I'm not saying, that sounds like a very stupid thing when you say, I appreciate Frank Lampard knows the position that Everton are in better than the three of us do here. However, it's difficult to unearth things like that have been drilled into you over such a long time. His entire experience of playing football professionally was based on go and get the goal if you need it.
Yeah.
And him as a player being the player that went to get the goal when it was needed, right? It's kind of interesting. You drop him into a situation where actually you're right. Like Everton, if they take a draw at West Ham, that's not a bad result given their position in the league table.
Yeah.
And yet Frank Lampard is there maybe saying, come on, let's try and snatch this.
I wonder also whether, Frank Lampard spent a lot of his career playing in front of some of the best defences in Premier League history.
Sure.
And so his idea of what a midfield construction should look like and how a team should attack is probably based on that. But I'd be surprised if it just seems such a stupid mistake to make. I don't know. I'm not sure
if it's just a mindset that's difficult to escape from.
I wonder if he has that much control over the team at all. Like it just seems. It seems in that.
We don't know.
No, but it's not. That's not necessarily a fraction of him. It's just that he hasn't been there long enough for the team to reflect his belief system, his personality, whatever. And so you have this kind of moment of chaos. Unfortunately, moment of chaos coincides with a very, very real relegation threat.
Sure.
Which is not ideal.
But no. It's also one of those situations, and forgive me for speaking for football fans, but when a big team nears relegation,
we talked about this,
there is something about it where people start to go,
ooh, that'd be interesting.
That could be quite funny. That could be interesting. I wonder what, and to be, there's a cruel part of me that would, I thought the other day, if Everton were relegated, they'll be on telly all the time, right? Because there's, they'll have Friday night games every week.
Yeah.
And I think I'd watch them. I think I'd watch Everton in the Championship just to see how much they likely dominate the league. But there's something strange about that, isn't there? Because I imagine, I don't know how well shielded the Everton players are from the general public, but I feel like the general public, the troll, the imp of the perverse in the general public does kind of want them to go down.
I think this has always been the way. Like I think
it's not specific to them.
No, it's not about Everton. It's just that there's a novelty in seeing a very big club in the Football League. So it was the same with Villa. It wasn't quite the same with Newcastle because that was a little bit of a different situation.
Have Everton ever been out of the top flight?
Only
Never.
Everton and Arsenal have never been relegated.
Wow.
Yeah.
The ones who could challenge them for it, like Watford below them. Burnley have the same number of games Everton have played, so they're both in 28. But Burnley are 4 points below, and their team's really weak, but they're very well organised. And at that sort of stage of the season,
specialists at escaping relegation.
Yeah, and they play for set pieces, and they'll get some scrappy 1-0s, 0-0s out of that, and they might be okay.
I'll look at their running.
Looked really well organised against Liverpool, and we're working hard, and that might be the kind of thing where they can scrap enough to get. So I don't think they've got the players for it. But.
So here's Burnley's fixture list upcoming. I mean, there's an argument to say it's significantly easier. There are teams that might be scrapping as well. Obviously, they play Everton. They are away to Norwich. They are away to West Ham. They're at home to Southampton. They're at home to Wolves. They're away to Watford. They're at home to Aston Villa. They're away to Tottenham on the penultimate game, and then they're at home to Newcastle on the final game of the season. Right?
That's Burnley.
That's Burnley. that is easier than Everton's run-in, like significantly easier. Like half of these teams are safe from relegation, mid-table, maybe nothing to fight for. You know, Southampton Wolves this weekend? It was 1-1, you know.
Southampton Leeds 1-1.
Southampton Leeds, yeah. I mean, Tottenham, of course, the penultimate game of the season for Burnley, they'll still be pushing for top 4, you would have thought by then. Newcastle, I imagine, will be safe by that point. I mean, there's a lot of games in there that you can see Burnley getting points from.
I also think the situation for Everton is a lot tougher just generally because you've got a lot of high reputation players there. I know some of them have come on big transfers and wages and aren't great decisions, but they are household names in the way that Burnley's players aren't.
Sure.
And also, I think if you're someone like Richarlison or Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Jordan Pickford, maybe.
Richarlison.
Richarlison like a dinosaur.
That's what I thought you said.
That would have been an excellent nickname.
Richarlison.
West Country Richarlison. I think it is only natural that suddenly, you know, you get to April, May, relegation looks likely. Agents start talking to you and saying, do you want to be there?
Richarlison. I've got T-Rex arms.
I think it was like a Pokemon now.
Pokemon.
Like Charmander.
Go! Richarlison. Wild Richarlison has appeared. Anyway, that's Richarlison and Everton a bit screwed, aren't they? Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to cover.
There's a note here which just says Mason Holgate sock holes.
Well, Mason Holgate sock holes, I was very interested by this. Yeah. Mason Holgate sock. We've lost JJ to the powers of chaos. Mason Holgate sock holes. I bring this up purely because watching the game and then, a medical man, a medicine man, runs on with a Brazilian health person runs on with some scissors and just starts sort of chopping away in socks. So you've got kind of like a polka dot sock skin thing happening afterwards, you know, kind of cool. And I didn't understand, so I tweeted it. Many contradictory answers came back to me. Lots of people saying it's for circulation, which didn't really make that much sense to me. And then other people saying, well, that doesn't make sense either because pressure socks are there to increase circulation. So if you cut holes in them, then you are decreasing circulation. I don't know what this is about.
I know the answer.
Kyle Walker used to do it.
Do you know the answer?
It's speed holes, makes them run faster.
Speed holes. Okay. All right, Seb, this is the first ever live commission. But I commission you to find out and make a Tifo video about it because I think a Tifo video about holy socks, very interesting.
What is the
stuff.
title of this video, do we think?
We'll work it out later. Don't let them see the whole process because they'll be horrified by how cynical it is.
I am on it.
Well, let's have another break and then we'll be back. Yes, Manchester United won Leicester. Man United were quite poor in this game, Seb, weren't they? A little bit fortunate to get the result that they did.
I was fine with the second Leicester goal being disallowed, but I thought that McTominay should have probably been sent off that tackle on Maddison. It's extraordinary that he wasn't. It's a terrible tackle. Clumsy and disjointed. Nothing seemed to work properly. Fred played very well. I thought he was pretty good, but he was being asked to do a lot more than he should have been. Sure. He was the entire midfield at times.
It's funny though, isn't it? You move him like 5 meters further up the pitch and all of a sudden he's a world beater.
He's contributing everywhere and obviously deservedly scored the equaliser. But the false nine didn't work with Bruno Fernandes. Had a couple of nice moments, but he's not built to play that position really.
No.
Seemed a bit strange.
Just signed a new contract as well.
Just signed a very, very lucrative new contract. Hey, but...
is it an additional year and then a new contract?
I think so, yeah.
Sure.
Also, Leicester were very good.
Yeah.
I really like Leicester. I thought that had they had a little bit more of a direct threat at the top of the pitch to go with Kelechi Iheanacho, they'd have probably won the game. But Dewsbury Hall, Barnes, Maddison, that all worked really nicely behind him. And given they were without Wilfred Ndidi, I thought they were excellent in midfield.
Yeah.
And Paulus Mendy.
Where's Vardy? Is he injured?
I guess so. He did not play. Yeah. But obviously Ndidi's gone for the season too. Yeah. And Daka came on at the end, but right at the end. And which was strange to me because I felt like, put Daka's pace up against Maguire and Varane and he might have
let the children boo.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
The non-people boo. But United were, God, it's a mess.
Sure.
It is a mess. Like it just doesn't, it's kind of sad watching Jadon Sancho at the moment. I thought he looked really lost. Elanga, I like Elanga. I think he's a good player, but didn't play well. Pogba kind of just strolled around and had some nice touches, but
replaced by Matic at about 80 minutes.
Yeah, that's like an anti-CV moment.
Sure.
It was not great. Matic played all right, actually.
Yeah.
With Stretchy when he came on,
It's funny, Matic has been okay in recent games.
I can see Fernandes being a problem for United in the next few years.
Sure.
I think when you pay, so he's now paid third best at the club, so it's behind De Gea and Ronaldo, I guess, right? Yeah. So his best seasons for United was when he was, the first thing is I don't think he's one of the best players in the world. No. I think he's outside the top 15, 20.
He's a very good player. He's just not outstanding.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So he's not the absolute top tier, which is when you should be paying the top tier wages for that sort of player. When he was best was when everything else was organised around him being the loose cannon. So he was able to do whatever he wants to do. So when he's there and on form, they play and often they win because he would score or assist or drive the team.
Drag them to points.
Exactly. But what you need is the whole team as a unit to sort of work. And I never see him being that good or functional within a team that is...
within any system.
I don't think he would work. I mean, I may be totally wrong and people think I'm wrong here, but he wouldn't get in the Liverpool team. I don't know where you'd play him. Maybe as a false nine possibly, but he wouldn't work in the same way that like Firmino or Jota does.
Well, let me put it this way to you then, right? It seems at the moment like the two most likely candidates for the United job are Pochettino or Ten Hag. Does he fit in either of those sorts of... I mean, with Pochettino, there's an argument to say that maybe he does. Pochettino often
Ten Hag
has played recognised 10.
He plays a 4-3-3, but he often looks like a 4-2-3-1, so he could play as a 10 in there. But again, it's very... Ten Hag, like the managers he's often compared to, like Guardiola and stuff, very highly structured.
Sure.
There's not a lot of free-flowingness. There's not a lot of room for improvisation other than in the absolute final third. And I agree with what Rangnick's saying in his post-match, saying that they need more aggression, more physicality. They're missing this sort of dynamism. I think when you saw it in the Champions League with maybe, was it Real or Barca? Was it Barca get torn apart by Bayern or something like that? And you can see the difference between the two in that game. It was that Bayern were like powerful and like just had momentum and energy and just that. This is bigger, just bigger lads all over the pitch. And United, I think, are missing that. They don't really have the dynamism. Players like Pogba... who is it that... no, I'm thinking of a different game actually. There's certain players in that team that just don't go into challenges. McTominay does, but he gets away with a lot of that sort of stuff. But they're missing... It's not just about like going and fouling people. It's about being kind of hard.
They're missing Luke Shaw.
Competitive.
I know. I don't want to put their poor performances all down to Luke Shaw being injured. But Alex Telles is just not the same player. Luke Shaw is one of the driving forces.
We came up at half-time here, didn't he? Because he's something wrong with his... At least it's to do with his old injury with his leg.
So just with what JJ is saying about kind of presence and physicality, I watched Barcelona on Sunday night, and Araujo, the centre half, like he would tackle and take the ball, but with a kind of this dismissive physicality. That's what United don't have. This kind of
a ferocity.
Yeah, really, because it's there's an added value to tackling like that, to being a good technical tackler, but also having that sort of how dare you try and dribble past me, or how dare you compete for the ball with me. And United have that nowhere, really.
Sure, nice bit of steel.
They need players who are you need the players who are really not like the ones that you don't want to play against, but you like having in your team. That's sort of like Roy Keane.
I mean, Fernandes is kind of like that.
Yeah,
I think Fernandes is just a bit. I think he not crosses the line, but he's a bit moany in a way that isn't necessarily helpful, because it's kind of, you hear some of the things he says. He was quoted over the weekend about saying, "Oh, United's level has to rise." Like, yours too, mate. Sure. I mean, you were quite good a couple of years ago, and the year before that you were brilliant for long periods. But I don't know, like it's kind of I was someone on Twitter, I think Tim Stillman at Stilberto, said he's kind of a set piece player. In a way, at times, in the way that he wasn't under Solskjaer, when he was kind of a missing piece, like a little synapse between the different Man United departments. Now he's, you don't notice him very often, apart from when he's complaining about whatever. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily have given him a new contract. That was kind of.
You don't lose him for free, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. You either keep him or you don't, and you have to pay the money, and United can afford it. So therefore, his value is probably worth what they're paying him. But he should be the tier below the absolute top. Again, like Varane would be the sort of players you build around. And if you're talking about the missing ferocity, then Varane next to someone who is more aggressive, like what he was next to Ramos, who is aggressive. That's what you get. You don't get that from Harry Maguire. You notice that Rangnick switched to centre backs as well, playing Harry Maguire on the right.
Why did he do that, I think?
I think it's he said it's because he saw him do it, or saw him play for England and thought he'd be better in that position. It just changed the angle of where you can pass it.
It is his natural position, the centre-back right spot. I mean, like that's where
he plays on the left, though.
No, this is the thing. Like that's where he played.
For Maguire?
For Maguire. That's where he played at Leicester. It's apparently it is his natural position. He's played on the left at United because previously it's felt that the other centre-backs haven't had the quality.
I thought I read in Cox's piece this morning that he's mostly on the...
I mean, he is mostly. I mean, he has literally only played on the left for ages now. But I think it's more to do with him being seen as the better of a partnership, and therefore, given that neither player is as comfortable on the left as the right, and they put Maguire there, it makes complete sense.
But then Varane looked a bit out of sorts playing on the left because he's always on the
Yeah.
He's always on the right.
I don't. It's a little bit of a kind of a proper football manism. But when Paul Pogba said a couple of weeks ago, "Oh, our season's dead," I thought that's kind of a weird thing to say, because I know United are a little bit behind in the race for top 4, but it's 3 points, isn't it? It's not
3 points and 2 games.
Yeah, it is.
I think
but you can see if you look
probably
at
over.
No, I don't think so, because you're fighting with Arsenal, who've got a really difficult run in, Spurs, who you can't really depend upon, and United have the players whereby they don't have to play well to win games. If you get Ronaldo back fit, you're probably going to get another 7 or 8 goals.
Let's look at it now.
It's kind of a weird thing, because Champions League qualification for United is super important, and yet it's been, oh, we're not going to win the Champions League or the Premier League, so therefore our season is over.
I think the expectation is that Arsenal, on current form, probably win those 2 games in hand, right? At which point the gap is 9.
Yeah, it is. But then stranger things have happened, and this is a young Arsenal team.
The gap is 6. I'm sorry.
Well, but it's a young Arsenal team who have no experience of this situation.
Yes.
And on current form, absolutely they should walk it. But if you're Man United and you got to play Arsenal.
Yeah. What about West Ham?
I think West Ham have got their attention on the Europa League.
Sure.
And rightly so. They've got they've had an excellent Europa League campaign. Just knocked out Sevilla, so fair enough.
Yeah. No. I'm curious to see Manchester United's fixture run in. Let's look at this. Well, of course, Everton comes at the weekend. That's funny. Norwich, that'll be fun. They've got Liverpool, and then they've got Arsenal.
This is Man United, is it?
Yeah.
You're right.
Then it's Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea, and Palace. So there's still to play Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea.
But if you have a team that you're fighting with on your fixture list, that's kind of enough at this point to keep your season alive, and not kind of, oh, we're just waiting for the summer now. It's like, well, no, because Champions League qualification versus being in the Europa League or worse is 2 very different things for Man United.
Sure.
So it's just weird. It just, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but they just look like a team that are bored of the season.
No, I think I would agree with that.
It's
spiriting. Let's have a quick look at Arsenal's run, and you said it was tough. I'm curious to hear it. So, of course, there's Palace this evening.
Yeah, they're playing before we release. So
we don't know the result of that. They are at home to Brighton, away to Southampton, away to Chelsea, then at home to United. That's 2 tough fixtures in a row. Then away to West Ham. That's tough. Home to Leeds, away to Newcastle, home to Everton. That's a little bit hard.
They've also got to go to Spurs on a rearranged fixture.
Fixture.
At White Hart Lane, which is, we think at the moment, latest news from the Premier League is that is in the penultimate week of the season.
Oh,
so yeah, that could be a bit
exciting.
Bit of a showdown.
That would be a... Do you think they do that because they know it's going to be a big game? Yeah, I like it. I like that.
That'll be a TV game, wouldn't it?
A TV game. Okay, fine. Speaking of Tottenham, 5-1 Newcastle. Nothing hugely interesting you've written here, Seb. I mean, that's quite interesting to me.
Well, it was a good performance. It was a strange...
I watched some of the first half.
First half kind of boring.
Yes, it was.
It was
that's why I turned
very
off.
stale possession-y.
Sure.
And then...
also, Newcastle didn't seem like the second place team in that first half.
The second place?
Is in the team that was going to lose 5-1.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no. That was a weird way.
Did you understand what I was saying?
I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
I don't want to side with Joe, but yeah.
Sometimes you have to.
Interesting points. Don and I, when we came to the office this morning, we were talking about...
Producer Don,
Rodrigo Bentancur, and him being excellent to watch. And it's amazing how much difference having lots of technical ability in that position makes. All of a sudden, you can play out from the back without that.
That position being central midfield.
Central midfield, anchor role there, really. Bentancur happily receives the ball anywhere because he's good enough in possession he's press resistant, I guess. Great passer of the ball. All of a sudden, the terror of playing out from the back has gone, which is very interesting and very novel. Also, Dan Burn had an absolute meltdown in this game. He had a brilliant first half an hour, played very well. And he's been very good since he moved from Brighton. But then, I don't know what happened to him, was probably complicit in conceding goal 2, Tottenham goal 2 and Tottenham goal 5. Started blowing kisses at Lucas Moura, started trying to wind up Tottenham players.
Blowing kisses?
Yeah, it's a very weird moment.
As in...
Yeah, so basically, there was a moment where Tottenham were trying to break on a counter, and he sort of shoulder charged Emerson Royale to the ground. It wasn't such a bad tackle.
Sure.
But he was on a yellow card, and he probably could have had 2 or 3 in the second half. Don't know how he stayed on the pitch. But then he kind of lost himself a little bit and started jostling with Tottenham players. And positionally, we were saying if you're 6'7", you don't get away with much in the kind of out of position sense because people spot you. You're 6'7".
You get away with other things.
Yeah, but you
don't get mugged.
Afternoon. You probably don't get mugged.
No one attacks you. People assume
you
things.
are, You're big.
Yeah.
But he had a pretty bad afternoon.
Okay.
But it was,
sorry to hear it.
3 points for Tottenham, which is good. But
3 points and 5 goals. Great. Arsenal play Palace tonight, as we've said.
Hey, so interestingly, I badgered you into watching Juventus Inter Milan last night.
You really very much did. I wasn't
you
going to watch it.
At one point you said there's only a 60% chance that I'm going to watch it.
And it was, to be honest, it was lower than that when I told you.
And you were lying.
Yeah,
it
was about 15.
That was your lying text on WhatsApp. Yeah,
sure.
But what did you find?
I'm glad I watched it. Of course, it was Juventus 0-1 Inter. Very interesting game. The Derby d'Italia, I've learned that it is called. Yeah, big game for some reason. I don't know why. Here's a few things that I learned about the game. Are you both ready for me?
Mm-hmm.
Vlahovic, looks like a player who played for Bayern Munich in the 1980s. That's his look. Yeah, not such a funny comment, just a real observation. Yeah, with the lovely hair, but I can see him in those baggy shirts.
Can you name another player that played for Bayern Munich in the 1980s?
No, but I know what they look like. Miroslav Klose's dad. How about that? Yeah? I don't know. I wasn't alive. Tell you what, Rabiot had a really good half. Big takeaways from this game before I just list all the things I noticed. Juve were really good. I saw some people. I listened to James Horncastle on the broadcast saying
your friend, James.
Exactly. Well, best friends. Yeah. Saying this is maybe the best performance of Juventus that he's seen for all season. Right? They were unfortunate to lose the game. I think the penalty incident was absolutely bizarre. The only goal came from a penalty, and if you didn't watch it, I'll just recount it for you now. Very strange. Okay, here we go. It was a bit of a contentious decision anyway, the initial foul. It's the sort of one I think is now given in the VAR era. You wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't given. So obviously fans were very upset. It was Dumfries. He stood on a little bit. Penalty. Fine. Hakan Çalhanoğlu steps up, looked extremely nervous. Big stadium, scary fans. Szczesny makes a lovely save. Wasn't a very good penalty. And Çalhanoğlu goes for the follow-up, scores the goal. But the referee blows the whistle because there were about 7 players on top of it when it went in. And it looked like there must have been a foul.
On who? On a Juventus defender?
On Szczesny. The referee blows as if Çalhanoğlu has fouled Szczesny. They go to VAR. There is no foul, right? So obviously it is just a goal. And why the referee blows the whistle, I have no idea other than big bundle of players.
It looks like a foul. Referees always do this.
Right. It looks like a foul.
It looks like it's going to be something.
Maybe they think 80% chance I'll be right. I'll blow the whistle, whatever. Go to VAR. There is no foul. So the goal should be given. However, what they notice is that so many things happen. I didn't manage to get the name of the player, but a Juventus defender infringes on the 18-yard box when the penalty is taken, right? So instead of just giving the goal, because the referee's clearly blown the whistle for a foul he thinks is against Juventus, he uses that as the reason that he blew the whistle as a get out of jail free card to force them to take the penalty again, which they do, and Çalhanoğlu scores.
Did the player who was caught encroaching, did he have an influence on the players?
I think it was De Ligt. No. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, of course he probably did because he will have been one of the first to arrive at the big kerfuffle. But the weird thing about it, I think, is if you've blown the whistle thinking Juve have been infringed. Have had a foul against them and therefore the goal shouldn't stand, to then force the penalty to be taken again, very strange thing. If it's a punishment for Juve, then why don't you just let the goal stand and the referee should just admit that he was wrong to blow the whistle? At least that's the implication I get. Incidentally, this all happened about 50 minutes into the first half, of which there was maybe 8 minutes added time. Just after the first 45, there were a few injuries, lots of yellow cards, it was a feisty game.
And so Matthias de Ligt was caught doing a bit of cheating in the second half. What did you make of that?
This was the very end of the...
When he collapsed.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was. Juve had been pushing very hard. I felt a bit bad for them. I honestly, they were probably the better team on the night. Worth saying, Inter Milan defended spectacularly well. And I think the commentators at the time said, this has the look of a Juve team of the past 10 years who's about to win the title, defending a scrappy game, 1-0 win. That's what Inter appeared to be. High praise. They appeared as champions. It was essentially the praise. De Ligt takes a little finger in the eye, flops over. Obviously he wouldn't have caused a grown adult person to fall over. But at 92 minutes in a game where you probably feel like you should have won, you might still be pissed off about a contentious penalty decision anyway. And on a different night, it's a 50-50 game.
Okay.
I can understand trying to buy it a bit. I also think because he's a big centre-back, he's inevitably going to get worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Bonucci did this loads in the game, and I was trying to work out how to say it. I couldn't work out eventually the right way of framing this. But basically, he's just too big to pretend. I don't believe him ever. Not because I think he's a liar, but because when I look at him, he just looks like a statue made out of titanium or something.
Like he's been carved out of a metal.
If I punched him in the face, I would expect every bone in my hand to break. And so the idea that he's hurt by anything just seems ridiculous. And even in the case where he is legitimately fouled, I still don't believe him because he's Bonucci. But it was a lovely game. And I mean, the fun thing about it is that at the beginning of the game, the Serie A title race, wide open. In a way I had not expected. Juve for most of the season, very far behind. It looked for a while like they weren't even going to finish in the top 4, right? At the beginning of this game, if they had won, they would have been within 3 points of first placed AC Milan, who incidentally play Bologna tonight. So we don't know the outcome of that as we are speaking. But no, this was an enormous win for Inter, and I think the first away win at Juve in almost a decade is a very rare thing to have happened. So it would have taken an odd game to get there.
From Juventus' perspective, so I watched. I didn't watch this game, but I watched Sampdoria Roma.
Yes.
Roma 1-1-0, and they're on. I think that was their 11th unbeaten game in a row. So they're still an outsider, but they could potentially snatch that 4th Champions League spot from Juventus if Juventus can.
No, they're closing in.
Yeah,
but no, I think
pretty good.
Overall, both teams played very well. Juve were fantastic and just happened to lose the game. Inter had a performance that looked like champions. Really, if AC Milan beat Bologna tonight, they'll be top of the league again. A friend of mine who is a supporter says that they will inevitably cock it up as they get towards the end, and also, perhaps the squad isn't the strength of some of the others, but a fascinating title challenge. Napoli also in there, we should say. Napoli were second over the weekend, so exciting. I believe they beat Atalanta.
So there was Roma are going to play Napoli in 2 weeks' time.
Big game.
And, big game. But anyway, towards the end of Roma's game in Sampdoria, Lorenzo Pellegrini was taken off as a injury time substitute. And he, on his way off the pitch, he removed his shin pads, untied his boots, readjusted his socks, and got a very, very obvious yellow card, which happens to mean that he will miss the Salernitana game now, not the Napoli one. That's worked out quite nicely for him.
That is funny.
Yeah,
that is funny.
That is Jose Mourinho's captain.
Okay. Also worth just one more little thing to give you a taste of this game. Locatelli was subbed off after 30 minutes after having been kicked in the head and then later in the midriff. This was the game we were playing. I mean, I think his forehead looked to be like swelling up over his eye. But this was the type of game that it was, a very feisty affair. And was it feisty, Seb, at Barcelona 1-0 Sevilla? Also, very important game for the La Liga title race.
I feel like I've been doing lots and lots and lots of talking. Did JJ watch Barcelona Sevilla?
I think it's unlikely.
I didn't watch it, no, but I have seen obviously Pedri's goal because
is it nice?
Love that guy.
I haven't seen it.
He's one of your favourite players.
Honestly, I think he's one of the best players in the world.
What did he do?
Like, genuinely,
I think that's the thing you've said more to me than any other thing.
I said when he's the best young players, like he will be one of the best players. I think he already is. Sure. Like he's astonishingly good. Like regardless of age.
Sure.
So Barcelona always play with these wide wingers. The goal comes from, I think it's a set piece, and the winger puts it, I think it's Dembele on the right, puts it back into the middle. Pedri's on the edge of the box next to someone else. Pretends to shoot on his left, takes about 3 players out, puts it onto his right, pretends to shoot, takes another 5 players out. They'll just fall down like it's dominoes. And then he takes another stride for the 3rd time, doesn't fake it, and just plants in the bottom corner to settle it.
Nice.
Everything he does is amazing, but that's obviously him scoring a goal that wins the game. But everything he does in every game is
big player for perfect. A big game.
100%. Also, this was close for a while. Like Barcelona were probably in the ascendancy for most of it, but Sevilla had a couple of really good spells.
I've never heard anyone say that sentence outside of Pro Evo in real life.
Barcelona were in the ascendancy.
Someone in the ascendancy.
No. Peter Brackley.
That says it quite a lot.
Fair enough. If you go with Brackley,
I really like
you're not
it.
Gonna, exactly. You know, just showing my roots and my age, unfortunately.
Have you seen the La Liga table before Xavi took over?
Yeah.
And it was after 11 games, they were sitting in 9th place on 16 points, and now they are second and could legit well, I mean, they're a bit far behind Real. They've got a game in hand and they're, 12 points behind? So it's not going to happen. But
I was legitimately impressed by Barcelona. I felt like Sevilla, coming to this game, only conceded 19 goals in the Liga, and that's in like 30 games.
Yeah, so quite incredible, isn't it?
Really, really good defensive team. They're stubborn as hell.
Yeah.
But Barcelona, when they were good, they were all over them. Like Dembele against Rekic on the right. Rekic's really a centre half, not a fullback. And it showed. Dembele was excellent. Pedri was brilliant, as JJ said. Aubameyang a bit quiet, but like Barcelona, the patterns of their play, the patterns of their build-up were really good. They looked like they were on the cusp of creating a goal all the way through the game. And
they're looking sharp, aren't they?
They're looking sharp, but it's also the most fun I've had watching Barcelona in a really long time. At the beginning of the season, during the kind of what we'll call the Luke de Jong months, wasn't so much fun watching Barcelona. It was a little bit like, kind of might do my council tax, whatever. But this is really impressive.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What do you have to do with your council tax? Mine's just a direct debit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, the thing is
once a year they send me a letter saying this is how much you'll have to pay me over the next year, me being the council.
Behind the curtain there, you've caught me out on a little, I use council tax as a kind of a proxy for something boring, and you've kind of exploded that illusion.
I think you meant taxes, but you said council, and then it's too late, because it's easy to pivot and just ignore it, but you've highlighted it now.
The cadence in the sentence wasn't quite right with just income tax. I don't have to just, you do that once a year.
Interesting.
What I should say is like, I instead of watching Barcelona,
I just wondered if there was some kind of special German tax that you had to do.
You have to make pension
instead of paying money, you have to go and do a thing as your tax, your penance.
No, you have to. Well, you don't have to go and do a thing. Like you don't have to go and like pick up litter, an aluminium can or something.
Look after a cat.
Pick up a penguin.
Pick up a penguin today.
Hey. No, but basically, Luke de Jong was not a lot of fun when he played for Barcelona.
Sure.
Well done for butchering that.
Well, no, it's good to know. It's good to understand where we are. Luke de Jong, not as much fun as having a direct debit with your council tax that you never have to think about ever. Not as much fun as that. That's good to know. Sevilla, interesting. Sevilla haven't won a game in 5 now, according to the league table. 4 draws in a row and then a loss to Barcelona. They were second
lost 3 games all season,
time.
including that's the 3rd defeat of the season.
Wow, very impressive.
I feel like
they were up there. They're still 4th place.
Injury difficulties. They've got a problem with scoring goals.
Okay.
Anthony Martial's not working there really. He had an okay game, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone look as miserable playing professional football as Anthony Martial does.
No, sure.
I agree.
He just hates it.
Well, maybe he does, or maybe that's just his face,
It might just be his face, but then...
If you saw me on the tube, if I wasn't wearing a mask...
You're not... No, I would say...
Look at this.
There's a menace to you. No, that's grumpy. That's not the same. That's not hate. No, it's not hate.
Martial doesn't look like he has hate.
He really does not like
football. I refuse that one. Not allowed.
He is not going to be a Sevilla player next season.
I think that's probably unlikely, but still.
But yeah, they need goals.
I wish luck to the boy.
Yes, of course. But Sevilla need goals. And Nesri came back off the bench, but Rafa Mir as well, he's there. But they need a couple more, a 20 goal a season player, and they'd have competed for the title. But
sure.
Alas.
Sure. Okay, fine. Well, I'm just trying to find the World Cup draw, but it turns out it's impossible to find. So
I wonder if I can remember it off the top of my head.
Here we go. I've got it now. Thank goodness that you're not going to have to remember it, JJ. Group A.
I could though.
All right, fine. Tell me Group A.
Qatar,
yes. I mean, they are the hosts, and therefore
Ecuador.
Yes, Ecuador.
Netherlands.
Yes.
And Senegal.
Are you cheating somehow?
No, I'm not.
You're genuinely not cheating?
I don't have. I've got the Liga table on this thing.
We should also say, of course, as the Netherlands have been brought up, terribly sad news about Louis van Gaal announced over the weekend.
All the best.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fun guy. Love Louis van Gaal.
Yeah. Forthright,
do
honest.
recover. Yeah. That is Group A. Well done. Very successful. Group B.
England.
Yes.
Islamic Republic of Iran.
Sure. That's a strange way of saying it.
I also remember United States of America.
I think Iran is fine.
And then I'll say Iran. Then United States of America, and then one of Ukraine, Wales, or Scotland.
Yes.
In your heart of hearts. Who is that third team?
Probably Wales, isn't it?
I did a joke tweet about England. England against Iran, right? England are not as good as I think a lot of English fans think.
And Iran are better than English fans will think.
But so England have some of the best players in the world, right? They do.
Sure.
But
Well,
they
they're
play
gonna win
very
the World Cup.
conservative. And what I can see happening in this group, and I'll be dead wrong, but this is what I see happening, is that Iran will be really defensive, very hard to break down,
Sure.
and England don't put enough players forward to be able to break them down, and
Sure.
they don't win, they draw.
I can tell you what's going to happen in
Right.
this group. You ready to
There'll
hear
be a
what's going to happen in
mistake
this
against
group?
America.
No.
And America will be pumped
I
up.
will not let you continue.
And they will
Have
draw.
you forgotten what happened to us during the Euros?
You fell out with me,
You
yeah.
weren't allowed to say bad things. Here's what's going to happen.
Doesn't remember Joe fell out with me
England
properly.
are going to, yeah, sure, you're absolutely right. Iran will play defensively. Iran are a very, very, very good team. Should not be underestimated. England will win that game 1-0. England will beat the United States of America 5-0. Come at me, America. I don't care. And whichever one of the colonies or Ukraine. No, that's not right. Can't say that. I'm got hot fever. I'm getting fever.
I'm
about
excited.
It.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Now, explain to me what's happening. Ukraine and Scotland. The game has not been rebooked.
No,
in yet.
there's now, I think it's someone, I can't remember who it is, wants that to be then postponed further to June.
Sure.
I think it's already been postponed to May, and it'll be pushed further. I mean,
So there's the
what
little
a situation.
semi-final, and then there's the final of
Would be against
qualification.
Wales.
Wales
It'll
are
be
up there.
Wales playing one of Scotland or Ukraine.
Yeah, it's at Hampden, so Ukraine will win.
Okay.
Well, so okay.
I can't have hope because the times I've done it,
No,
it leads to disappointment.
Ukraine,
so.
Ukraine are a good team as well. Ukraine should beat Scotland and Wales.
Yeah, well, I think Scotland.
True.
John McGinn. Well, yeah, there we go.
So then let me say, as a man who lived in Wales for 7 years,
You did, yeah. When we first met, you were
broadly
living in
would
Wales.
would support Wales. I enjoy Wales to perform well. I do. And their Euros. Was it Euros that they went so far in? Was it? It was the Euros.
Semi-finals,
Semi-final of the Euros.
2016.
What
Yeah.
a story that was.
That was great.
Loved it. Gareth
Al-
Bale, bring me home. Let's
Al
do
Robson Kanu now selling crypto, I think.
it. Really?
Yeah.
Good
really,
to know.
Really into it. Yeah.
Good to know. Okay, Group C. This is going to run on a little bit, but you just, I mean, if you can. If you think you can.
Argentina?
Yes. I mean, if it helps you in the future, I can give you the first team.
No, I think I can do it all.
How are you doing
I don't
this?
know. I'm terrible at remembering anything apart from weirdly this, because I remember all the flags being lovely colours, and so
Yeah.
it sticks.
Fine.
All I like about things is colours. I realised.
Argentina.
Mexico.
Yes.
Argentina, Mexico's classic World Cup. That feels very
It's
World
great.
Cupish.
That's
doesn't it?
absolutely great. That
I
one.
am now struggling for who this next one
Well,
is.
I can
though.
give you some clues. I don't want you. And now in the point where I wanted you to fail initially, and now I don't want you to.
Yeah.
Okay. How about this?
Think of great cuisine.
No, don't do that. That's very, very confusing. That's absolutely not the right thing. Think of vodka.
Poland.
Yes, Poland.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of course the most famous thing about Poland is vodka.
And then is it an African team, the final one?
Well, no, but not far from North Africa, just to the east there, in the Gulf. The largest country of
it's
the Gulf.
the United Arab Emirates.
No, that's a pretty small one. The big one that covers almost the entire Gulf. Lots of oil.
But
It's okay. What we're learning
I
here
don't
is that
know.
JJ can remember things okay, but he doesn't know just basic facts.
You
What
tell him
flag
a
is
lot
it?
about the thing that you need him to name.
Well, this country.
Saudi Arabia.
Yes,
got it.
there we go.
forgot they were in it. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
nice green one with all the bits.
So just to recap, because that was a long one: Argentina, Mexico, Poland, and Saudi Arabia. Lovely. That's a fun group. That is. That's a real fun group. Group D begins with
What's the boring one? It's France,
France.
Denmark.
Yes,
There's another team that they keep playing each other, which is an African team, isn't it?
it is a North African team. Yeah,
Algeria? Are they in it? No, not them.
Tunisia.
Tunisia, that's
Yeah,
the one.
yeah,
Tunisia.
Yeah.
And
then one of either the UAE, Australia, or Peru. Quite exciting. Yeah. Group E, I don't know why we're reading through this. I mean, we were only doing it because you could guess, but do you want to try with Group E? It's a big one. Two big teams in here.
Spain, Germany.
Oh, yes.
That'll be great.
That will be great. Arsene Wenger managed here for some time.
Japan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also one of... Never mind. It's always a risk when you go to country-related jokes. Costa Rica versus New Zealand will be that's the playoff there. Group F, of course.
I can't. Is it Brazil now we're on to?
No, this is Belgium's group.
Oh, do you know what? I can't remember
This
now.
is
Let's
a
just do
good
it
group.
properly. Yes.
Well,
a good
Belgium will be in a group with Morocco, Croatia, and Canada. Yeah. Very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing Canada play. Some Canadian family who will be supporting Canada. And Group G is Brazil's group. Brazil are in that group with Switzerland, Serbia, and Cameroon.
Switzerland, Serbia is a game.
Yes,
That
it is
a game.
Yes. Yes, it is a game. Group H, Portugal, Uruguay, South Korea, and Ghana. I'm quite excited.
I can see Portugal getting knocked out of that.
Yeah.
I'm already really excited for this World Cup. Yeah.
Can I just say, it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's a funny thing because this World Cup has obviously been probably the most talked about for many years now, for all the very obvious reasons that Tifo has covered alongside lots of other,
We'll continue to cover as well.
We'll
We've got
continue
some
to cover
illustrated stuff coming out on that.
Major media outlets, lots of discussions of sports washing, and I think as part of the coverage, discussion around what is sports washing, how does it work, when is it most effective? Yeah, all of that just pales when I see the World Cup draw. Is my point. Like, I imagine people all around the world will be feeling the same way. I see the draw.
They knew it as well.
That's entirely the point.
I didn't expect it beforehand, and then as soon as I saw the groups, I just felt excited, and it was almost as if all of the reasons I know to be true of why this shouldn't be happening and of why we should be skeptical of it, and all of the coverage that, as Seb said, we will continue to do. And personally, I will make sure I'm more focused on, because of how I feel now, just disappeared for a few minutes as I felt only excitement and joy.
That's part of the calculation. That is
That's how it
exactly
works.
what you're supposed to do.
That's the sports washing.
It's like when the team... I'm going to stop that sentence.
Okay.
I'm just going to stop right there. That might be a...
Choose what you value more, Leo Messi goals or human rights?
Yeah. I prefer human rights.
I would like
I
both,
also-
ideally.
Yeah.
I would like both as well.
But we're not allowed to choose anymore in this world. It's
Yeah.
one or the other.
Well, anyway, I say that as, semi-light-hearted, mostly serious point. That's how it works. It's right there. And me as
Important
someone
point.
who,
And I know I'm falling for it.
we
It's
spent like
crazy.
4 or 5 years
Yeah.
covering it in depth, being excruciatingly aware of all of the even the minor elements of this, and then the draw is released, and all I feel, I'm floating on a cloud with World Cup joy.
But this is the point, though, isn't it? But it's because you have this and you have the discussion. We've had 10 years of discussion about this.
Yeah.
And then there's a little voice in your head who thinks, yeah, but my reward for that is to enjoy a World Cup,
Sure.
which is the pinnacle of the sport that you love.
Yeah.
And yet, the way tournaments are hosted, the way sport is run, gives you this kind of moral quandary between the thing you love and the thing that you know is right. And
Yeah.
that's the entire point of it,
Yeah.
which is a horrible realization, but it is what it is.
Yes. It's also an odd one because of our position here. Our job is to cover it, right? And I feel happy about that as well as feeling sad about it.
Because we know that we can cover both sides of it. And we know we have
Yes.
faith in our ability to do that and to do it right and fairly. And we will do both of those things, but we will give due attention to every aspect.
There we go.
That was a weird... JJ, say something funny. Make a noise. Rah!
We've got it on camera.
There it is.
He does do weird things.
That's the end. This is a long podcast, but I
Yeah.
feel like there was a lot to get through today. JJ Bull, the Bullard. Thank you. Sebastian Stafford-Bloor. Sebastian Stafford-Bloor. That
Yeah,
just
that
came
was-
out. That really was just an
Freudian
accident.
slip.
Thanks
Yeah.
as usual
You
to
are
producer
very
Don
welcome.
today. Yes. And also producer Adonis and or whichever poor freelancer is editing today's episode. Hello, freelancer. Well done for getting this far. Thank you to the listeners. And we will be back next week with much of the same. Au revoir.